This week's lecture is on physical development and health for early childhood, which is roughly the ages 3 years old to 6 years old. So some of the things that we will talk about in this lecture will be growth and health, ways that we can keep children safe and healthy, and then an overview of how children develop their motor skills, both their fine motor skills and their gross motor skills, ages 3 years old to 6 years old. So growth. The interesting thing about children once they get into this early childhood period is that they actually have a slower growth curve compared to earlier in life. So especially that first year, you're going from 21 inches up into about like 2 or 3 feet. So it's a tremendous amount of growth. But this age is definitely about 2 to 3 inches a year you're growing, and you have about 5 to 7 pounds a year that you're putting on. So you're still definitely growing, but it has slowed down tremendously compared to the rest of the development earlier in your life, which actually means that in some cases you need less calories because you're growing less. So it's an important thing is to kind of keep an eye on what children are eating, but the best thing that we can do is offer a really healthy, varied diet. So fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, complex carbohydrates like multigrain, whole grain, and then low-fat milk, like 1%, 2% milk, depending on what your doctor wants you to have, and then allowing children to decide how much they want to eat of it. So you provide the really healthy choices, and the child can choose what they want. On the right-hand side, though, I have a scale. So this is what the CDC uses, so the Center for Disease Control. They have to do with a lot of health and safety for children. And we can look at the ages, what year the child is, and then by pounds or by kilograms, and then by inches and centimeters. So you can see that within this 3 to 6, it's still increasing for sure. But it's not as tremendously high as it was when they were infants and toddlers, and it won't be as tremendously high as it will be for our adolescents who continue to like shoot up a lot. You know, if you've ever seen a 16-year-old boy grow, you know, they can go up by like 5 or 6 inches in a year. This is about half that. So health, a big thing is sleep. So continuing to make sure that they have really good routines set up for their sleeping, going to sleep at roughly the same time, waking up at roughly the same time, and making sure that they get a quality sleep every night. Sleep is increasingly, well, it's always been important, but we're now finding from research how important it is for adults and for children in order to get healthy sleep every night. The interesting thing about this age is that they can have some sleep issues. So there can be night terrors. That's like where they kind of run around and yell and scream and you can't really wake them up out of it. Sleepwalking and sleep talking can be more prevalent at this age as well, and then bedwetting. So kind of a regression where they were able to sleep through the night, they were fully potty trained, not get up and need to go to the bathroom, they might start wetting their bed, either out of stress and concerns in their life, or there could be some health reasons as well why children might be doing that. So that's some of the sleep issues that children ages 3 to 6 might be experiencing. Another thing with their health, though, is regular dental checkups starting at 1.5. So by this age, they should be regularly going to the doctor every 6 months to prevent future problems and also to make sure that it's fun. So child development-wise, we probably, if I mentioned the dentist to any group of people in a lecture, you know, you get kind of a visceral reaction like, oh, I don't like the dentist. I'm hoping that through child development understanding, pediatric dentists can start to be more fun. So when I was looking for a dentist for my own children, I picked the funnest, most balloon, toy, kidland craziness that you could ever imagine in a dentist office, because I want my children to have a really good association in their mind between dentist and fun, or dentist and no pain, or dentist and nice person. So I'm hoping that those child development experiences that they have and how they're growing up, they will see a pediatric dentist and they'll think that it's fine, and they won't have the same connotation I have or did have, which was, ooh, dentist, I don't want to go. I'm going to avoid my teeth. I'm going to let problems happen. I'm going to have a bad cavity. Until when I was well into my late 20s, I got an infection in one of my teeth. And since that time, I've now found a great dentist, Dr. Chang in Oceanside. If anybody wants to know, with California Coast Dental Arts, he's fantastic. I don't get paid for saying this. I just really like him. And he's a very kind and compassionate person. And that's what I'm looking for my children, is that they don't have the same problems. They're not going to avoid the dentist. We want them to start keeping their teeth. They're going to start replacing them. So we want their teeth to be, we want to start out with these great dental habits where brushing their teeth twice a day and flossing and things like that are just part of their routine, so that they have really healthy baby teeth that don't have to have like those silver things put on them. And then eventually that we end up, when they are replaced and when they fall out and we get the adult series, those teeth that we're going to have for the rest of our lives, they've set up this routine, so now they're taking care of their teeth really, really well. Nutrition, like I talked about before, a healthy, varied diet, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, lean milks and calciums, yogurts and things like that, so that we are providing the best diet, and then the children decide how much they want to eat of it. Some days they don't need as much, they're not growing as much. Some days they're going to need a little bit more. And that's typically the child's own decision. If you are providing a healthy enough diet, then the child can decide how much they're going to eat of it. They too typically need less calories as a toddler who is still starting to grow at this kind of tremendous rate. We want to increase outdoor play and vegetable and fruit choices as well, to kind of keep children within a healthy weight as well, and also to set them that routine up that just we eat a healthy diet every day. Sometimes there's treats and things like that, but for the most part, day after day, we're eating a healthy diet. The most important thing about nutrition, though, is that there's this idea of food insecurity. So we know what malnourishment is. We know what starvation is. Most people in the United States are not starving. People in developing countries, places in China and Africa, things like that might be starving. Actually in Yemen, which is in the Arabian Peninsula, so in the Middle East, there is a huge humanitarian crisis right now. Infants, toddlers, and children are starving to death. We are not dealing with that. We are dealing with what we call food insecurity in San Diego County and within California and the United States as a whole. So within San Diego County, and this is for 2017, so last year, almost 400,000 people were food insecure. That's not knowing where your next meal is. That's not having enough food in order to provide for your children to help them grow. So that's about 12% of our population, so that's quite large. Out of that population, 137,000 are children, so ages 0 to 18, who might not have a full 3 meals a day, or might need to be having breakfast and lunch at school. So either through preschool or through their elementary school, there's a food program that the United States government runs, and that is how you can receive free or reduced price lunches depending on if your family income qualifies. These meals are balanced. They're appropriate serving sizes for each group as well, and that's what I like about these programs is growing up in the 80s, my food choices were tater tots, corn dogs, pizza. Now you can get gluten-free. You have a salad bar. There's fresh vegetables. There's fresh fruits, which was unheard of when I was growing up. Are they of the highest quality, organic food, lovingly prepared? No, it's still a cafeteria, but the choices I think have gotten much better, at least compared to my own childhood. Excuse me. And then for some of our children who are food insecure, this can be 2 out of their 3 meals, which reduces the burden on the family so that the meal, the dinner that they do provide at home can hopefully be provided for that family. So safety, the biggest thing at this age is car seat safety. So I've got a little girl here in the car seat, and it's changed as well. So really right now is until you're 8, you're basically in a booster or some kind of car seat. So you're either 8 or you're almost 5 foot tall. That's kind of what we've done. So that's when you're in a booster seat, and before that, you're in some kind of convertible car seat or one of those carrying car seats that you have, depending on the age and the weight of the child. And it should be clearly labeled on the box so that parents know. So for example, my 1.5-year-old is in the same car seat that she came home in. It is ages 5 pounds to 50 pounds depending on how you seat it in the back seat and where the straps are and all that type of stuff. It's a convertible car seat. It's going to be with her until she goes into a booster. Then my 6-year-old twins are still in boosters. They are neither 8 years old and they are not 4'9". So they are in boosters, and they just got in boosters actually because they're now 50 pounds. And that's the weight. The bottom weight for a lot of boosters is that they have to be about 50 pounds before they can go into it. But this also plays into our leading cause of death. Actually, for this age, ages 3 to 6, it's drowning, and then traffic. So either as a pedestrian or as a passenger in a car, that is the second leading case of death for children. So being in an appropriate car seat every time you get in a car is really important. The third one is fire, and the fourth one is homicide. I think the interesting thing about this is that they are all preventable, either by teaching your child how to swim and then making sure that they don't go to houses that don't have pull gates and they are always supervised around water. Traffic, by keeping them in safe car seats that are appropriate for their age and size. Fire, a little bit less preventable, especially if you're in an apartment building or somewhere like that where you don't have as much control over fire. And then homicide is 100% preventable. If we are looking at violence among children, making sure that children are in safe situations. I'm going to be bringing up leading cause of death, but I'm going to save all of my child abuse until the very last part of the class. It'll actually be the second to last week. I'll talk about child abuse. I think it's incredibly important. It's one of the most important roles that I think people in our society and within our community, just who you are, you have a role to prevent child abuse, and we're going to talk about that really specifically. So we'll talk about children in violent situations, domestic violence, things like that. I will save all of those issues till the very end of the class. Then accessing healthcare. So 1 in 5 Latino children, 1 in 8 African American, and 1 in 13 Caucasian children are uninsured. So there is a huge disparity in healthcare depending on the race of which you are born. So our Latino and African American children have a much greater chance of not having health insurance, which means they're 14 times more likely to lack doctor's visits, well-child checkups, and immunizations. And that is a real shame that within the United States, our healthcare still has disparities by just race and ethnicity, which also leads to 9 million, mostly children of color, being uninsured in the United States. So those are real issues that are facing our children. We want them to grow up healthy. We want them to go to those well-child visits so that the doctor is making sure that they're growing appropriately. There's no issues going on with that. And then if there's any issues reaching their milestones, so if they might have a little bit of help that they need with speech development or physical development, that the doctor can help get them those social services started so that they can reach that full potential that I'm always talking about. So that their development is increasing how it should be. And they just need a little bit of support in order to do that. And a great way that we can identify these risks is going to the doctor. But if you're not going to the doctor because you don't have access to it, that's a real shame. Here in California and in the United States, we're definitely having issues with this. We don't have a lot of answers. Things are changing with the Affordable Care Act, and we're not really sure how. Some of the options that you can have, and if you need healthcare, you need healthcare. About 4 years ago, my husband was laid off from one of his jobs. He got no severance. He got no warning. It was basically just don't come into your job tomorrow, which is illegal, by the way. You have to give more warning than that, and you need to give severance of some kind. So there's actually a court case about it. But we needed to go in Medi-Cal, and we did for about a year. We did it for 9 months. So it took him 6 months to get another job. I was working not at Palmer. I was working only my therapy job. I had about 30 hours a week, but that wasn't enough to cover the cost of our medical insurance. And so we were able to get Medi-Cal for my daughters. And when he got a job at 6 months, then he needed that 3 months typically where you have a new job before you get your benefits. So we were on it for 9 months, and it was a real lifesaver that our children were able to continue to have their health insurance while we were kind of in this unfortunate situation until we got back on our feet, essentially. So there is Medi-Cal. There's also Covered California. You've probably seen bus ads or TV ads and radio ads talking about, you pay a certain amount, maybe it's a sliding scale fee, basically. You pay what you're able to and you get access to healthcare. There's also just sliding scale doctor visits as well. You can go into North County Health Services, Vista Community Clinic, places like that that are nonprofit programs that provide health care for people. And you can pay kind of what you can afford in order to get to the doctor, in order to make sure that your child can get to the doctor. It's really, really important that they are able to do that. If anybody has any questions about some of these programs, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions by email and point you in the right direction. If you, your child, or any family members that you know need help in accessing healthcare in order for them to grow up healthy. So once again, I'm going to go through motor development, and I'm going to talk about all the types of things that you might see. And that's kind of one of the unfortunate things about having this be lecturing over a virtual spaces. You don't get to kind of see me. If we were doing this, I would show you what crawling and running and things look like. So I'm just going to give you a lot of pictures again, so you can get a sense of how we are developing our motor development. Once again, though, fine motor is kind of this. It's the ability to thread and to cut and to use the fingers in your hand in order to do something. Small motor, fine motor. And then our gross motor is being able to move big muscles, crawl, run, jump, skip. Those types of things are gross motor. So we have the fine motor skills and we have our gross motor skills, and combined together, it's our motor and physical development. So 3 years old, you are 36 months old, you're no longer a toddler, you're early childhood, you're a big kid probably, you'll tell everybody. You should be able to run very well. Not keeping up with an adult quite yet, but you're increasing in your speed, agility, ability to stop before an obstacle, go around obstacles. You should be able to jump with both feet off the ground, about 1.5 to 2 inches off the ground. And you should be able to climb upstairs, so stairs in your house, stairs anywhere in the community, alternating your feet and maybe not having to hold on to the wall or the railing. You have enough control in your arms and your legs and your trunk and your core that you can go up and down stairs without needing to hold on to something. You should be able to, as I have this little girl on the very top, you should be able to climb ladders and jungle gyms. So being able to do that requires a lot of balance and coordination as well, or those climbing walls, the small ones that they have in playgrounds as well. Then this little girl, you're being able to swing. You maybe can't pump your legs yet, but you are able to attempt to move your arms and legs in order to kind of get yourself to swing back and forth. And then right down here, we have this little one who is holding a crayon. This actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? It looks like a more mature grasp. That's probably how we use our crayons. So a child at 3 years old should have a prominent hand. So you're left-handed or you're right-handed or you're ambidextrous, but you're being able to hold it with your fingers and your thumb, kind of like this, how you will in kindergarten and first grade. And you're doing drawings like this. There's a big head, and then maybe there's a stick body, that type of stuff. They're quite immature drawings, but better than what our toddlers were doing when they were just kind of scribbling like this. Then our 4-year-olds, they should be able to run, stop, start, turn sharply around corners, rocks, start to play simple tag it, run away, you get me, I go back, that type of thing. You should be able to play hopscotch, so you can hop on one foot in one place at least, and starting to maybe do it in a row in front of you. You should be able to cut, and that's something that our kindergarten teachers want at 5 and 6, is they want you to be able to cut a straight line, a wiggle line, around in a circle, that type of stuff. Those are fine motor skills that our kindergarten teachers are definitely looking for when children come into the classroom. So if you have a classroom or you have a child of your own around 3 and 4, giving them the safety scissors that you can buy at Walmart and Target. They're only a couple of dollars. I actually have one right here. So they're safety scissors. They look like this. They have the blunt edge, and just allowing them to try to cut with paper with supervision. Didn't supervise one of my twins, and she cut the top of her hair off. That's what happens when you don't supervise children sometimes. But using these kind of safety scissors and giving children opportunity to do that. I even like these. I got these out. They have like a little stopper on them. So this was a good way in some of my classrooms to keep them safe. We're teaching children to hold them like this, but this also, as they get into the more sophisticated scissors that we might have, and they're less blunt, having some kind of protective mechanism like this in order to keep them safe as we're walking in the house or in the classroom. Then they should be able to bead bracelets. So these are tiny little beads. She's got a long piece and she's able to bead them with her hands. And then this little boy, he's running and stopping, but he's also in sand. So it's a uneven ground, sand, grass, bark, tops of things like that. You have enough of your motor ability and you have enough strength in your arms and your legs and your core in order to propel yourself over something that's not asphalt or like that rubber. If you've ever taken a run in the sand, it's a lot more difficult than running in other places like a track or a field or something like that. And so it requires a lot more strength that our 4-year-olds are getting ready to master. So then at 5 and 6, this is an interesting age as well, because now we can branch out of kind of our typical playground. You know, you're playing hopscotch, you're doing monkey bars, you have better grip strength, you can hold on, that type of stuff. And now you can ride a bike. So maybe with the training wheels, 5 and 6, and then maybe at 6 and 7, starting to get rid of those training wheels, going on the grass, parent pushing you, letting go, and you're able to kind of move yourself. So your arms are going, you're steering yourself. There's a lot of motor development that you can keep yourself upright and you can push fast enough that you can continue to go, you can steer yourself, you can see what's going on, you're looking for it. There's a lot that goes into being able to ride a bike, and that's why so much practice is needed. My 6-year-olds are still working on that. We actually haven't got off the grass yet. We can go a couple of turns around a really big grassy field, but on the pavement, it's still a little bit hard for them to, we haven't gotten to like the street where we could take a family run and they're running on they're riding their bikes. So we haven't gotten there yet. We're still working on the basic skills, and we've been working on them for about a year of that kind of stuff. Then swimming, introducing swimming and swimming safety rules. So at this age, it's really important, especially living in Southern California, where we have amazing pools. We have friends, if we're lucky enough, we have friends with pools or friends whose apartment complexes have pools. And then we have the ocean as well. So we are so lucky that we are surrounded by all these bodies of water, but we need to make sure that children are safe. So getting them into swimming classes and teaching them swimming safety rules as well. So if you need to, the Parks and Recreation has scholarships, or sometimes they have programs to help lower income children and also children of color get into the water and to be safe. There's actually an NFL star, and I forgot his name. I meant to write it down, but that is kind of his foundation and his mission. He almost drowned when he was 4 years old, and so now he's going around and he's educating families and parents about the importance of getting their children to learn how to swim. A big part of the swimming lessons as well is just spending time with an adult in a pool that has a lifeguard. So even if you couldn't afford swimming lessons, just going with your parents who have some swimming ability and jumping with them and learning how to negotiate water and what water feels like and that type of stuff with the lifeguard around is really important. As we get into the summer months, I do want to point out how easy it is for children to drown. A lot of times in movies, we have this idea that it's like this, like you're furiously pounding at the water and I'm going to drown. It actually is fairly terrifying. My husband was a lifeguard for a decade. They just kind of drop under the water. It's very, very silent. It's very quiet, and it happens really, really fast. They just can't swim. They can't keep their head underwater, and they just dip below the water, and they start to take in water and then unfortunately drown. My husband never had a person drown under, like a child never drowned when he was an ocean lifeguard, but adults have as well. But we're just making sure that people have some swimming ability, and then safety rules as well. So if you are going to somebody's apartment complex, making sure that somebody has been designated to watch the children. It's really easy. Everybody's watching the children, but nobody's actually really kind of watching them. So one person who's in the pool with the children paying attention to them, or going someplace that has a lifeguard, or if your friends are lucky enough to have their own pool in their backyard, making sure that there's a gate or there's somebody out there watching the children at all times. So that's part of just swimming and safety rules around swimming when children are 5 and 6 years old. So in conclusion, we need to keep children safe. We need to teach them and role model for them healthy lifestyles. And we need to make sure that all children, irregardless of ethnicity, culture, language spoken, anything like that, have access to healthcare so that they can grow up to be a safe, and as healthy as possible, because we want them to hit their physical and growth milestones. Not just our physical and health, but how you learn and how you are socially and emotionally will also be impacted by the amount of food that you have, the type of sleep you have, and the ability that you have to be taken care of by a doctor. So all of those things are going to contribute to impact children and impact their growth in physical, cognitive, and social and emotional. So thanks so much. I will see you guys in the discussion boards and the assignments as well. Have a fantastic week.